Good afternoon. It is 2:04 on Tuesday afternoon, October 3rd, and I will call this briefing meeting to order. Board members, it's a pretty short agenda. Mr. Martin is going to walk us through policy 1.11, and you have attached the change orders from August, public comment, and board member comments, board attorney, and so on. Go to the order. So we will begin with Mr. Martin, policy 1.11, board meetings.
Dr. Kuckel, board members, this is a pre-briefing for a simple revision to policy 1.11. The policy presently requires that the agenda and backup materials for budget hearings be distributed to the board 4 business days before the meeting. Because your budget hearings are designed as a special meeting, the statutory requirement is 2 days. The time was increased by policy a few years ago in order to give the board additional time to review the materials, but what we found in the last few years is that the budget department cannot meet that deadline because they don't receive the information from DOE on time to be able to do so. And so the recommendation is that the policy be revised to require the issuance of the agenda and the supporting materials 2 days before the budget hearings.
Okay. Board members, you okay with that?
Yes. No problem with the language.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Martin?
Ma'am, that's all.
Anything else from other board members?
No.
I have a couple things. Number one, on the page 1, under meeting place, all regular or...
Can you give us a line number?
Pardon?
A line?
Oh, the line number, yeah, good, 31, thanks. It says all regular or special meetings of the school board shall be held in the boardroom of the district office. So we have held workshops and other meetings outside of the district, and for example, we're going to hold a workshop in the back. Now that may still be considered here, but should that be formal to say all regular or special action meetings?
Well, it indicates unless otherwise advertised in the policy, and that wording is consistent with the statute.
Okay,
And certainly you can hold meetings at other locations as long as you notice them so the public is aware and can attend. Generally, the location of such meetings need to be in a reasonable distance so that residents of Lee County who are interested in the business the board is conducting have the opportunity to attend. So, for example, it would not be appropriate for you to hold a meeting in the northern part of the state.
okay. Then my second thing is just a reminder, I guess mainly for me. It's line 174 on page 4 of 7. And I have not paid attention to this. Maybe you have, Mr. Martin, and if I knew, I had forgotten that speakers may only address an item on the briefing meeting at their comment time. Do you pretty much follow that? I have not paid attention to stop somebody who was speaking on other agenda items. Do we really follow through with that?
We have tried to. There are times that probably the scope of the comment is a little broader than it should be, but there are times that I've advised stopping an individual for that reason. And when I give the description of the opportunity to provide comment, I always state that it needs to be something that is on the agenda.
Okay, good. All right. That's all I have. Anything else, board members? Okay, then as I mentioned, the change orders are on your attachment, and we shall move to board member comments. And I'll start down at this end this time. Ms. Fisher?
Yes, I'm going to be very brief today. I just want to comment on the response of our district members to Hurricane Irma. This morning I had an opportunity to be at Cape Coral Technical Institute, and they had put together a pallet full of collections and had a truck there delivering it to Jacksonville to go to Puerto Rico. And I'm just been amazed everywhere I go at how the community has come together, how our school people in particular have reached out in their communities and been extremely supportive and helpful of those who are challenged by the results of the storm. And I just wanted to say a moment of silence for Las Vegas. That's all I have today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will honor that moment of silence. We'll move on to Ms. Patrica.
Okay, so I have just 3 things. 2 are long, so I will warn you of that ahead of time. The first was my presentation at the Rotary Club of South Fort Myers. Greg Blurton is the president. He's a very good leader out there. I was surprised to see him as the president. Not that I didn't think you're a good leader, I just didn't realize I was walking into a place where you were the president. The group, that group, as you know about Rotary clubs in general, but I think this group in particular is very free with their time, talent, and treasure. They really are invested in making the community in which they live better. They were very open to my presentation, where we are now, where our schools are now, and where we're headed. So that was, I thought, a good experience. My second thing is the Florida School Boards Association trip to DC last week. I missed school board bonding training, what's that called?
Master
Master
Board.
board training.
And I know you hated it, so,
What did I hate?
missing it.
I did. I hated every minute of missing that. And but it was a very, very productive trip, I thought, to DC. I want to talk about a few of the meetings that I had. I met with Congressman Rooney. He is continuing his focus on expanding the definition of college to include career and technical education. And if you look at the statutes, career and technical education is included. And when I talk about expanding the definition, I mean in our everyday conversations. College isn't just FGCU or FSU or UF. College is Fort Myers Technical College. College is Cape Coral Technical College. So if we can, in our conversations, try to keep that in mind, I think that will help with a bit of a cultural shift in mindset. The congressman was surprised at our state's seizure of control of Title I dollars. He wasn't aware that that had been happening at the state level, and he is going to look into what he can do in order to make that better for us. His staff is working to coordinate a tour of Fort Myers Technical College. In addition, he wants to have a roundtable discussion with staff to find out how he, in his position as a member of the Education Committee, can help us with those programs. He's very, very focused on what we need from FEMA in the wake of Irma, and I know that Dr. Atkins and his staff are also working hard to get that information together. I don't know if it's appropriate for me to say, but I just kind of love Congressman Rooney, because to me he represents what government is supposed to be. I have been in touch with his staff since I met him last week at least 3 times. He always follows up. It's not just me, although I have been hounding his staff a little bit more than usual this time. It's not just me reaching out to them. They are also in touch with me. And I believe that's how government's supposed to work. He's a federal representative, and he has control over some education dollars, and he turns to us for expertise in that area, and he listens. And he's smart, and he knows a lot about a lot of things, but he's committed. He's a principled man, and I'm just, each time I meet with him, I'm more and more impressed. I think he sets a good example for what we're supposed to do in government. We also met with the education committees for the House and the Senate. We talked about local control of Title I dollars. Every single group we met with was surprised that Florida had taken control of Title I dollars. They didn't know that, and most of them expressed concern that it was not in line with the spirit of the law.
That's right.
So we talked about local control of Title I dollars and Title II funding. I guess there's a lot of talk about taking away Title II funding, and I guess the districts use that for teacher funding, and that
Professional
would hurt us. And these meetings gave us an opportunity to really highlight the problems in Florida, because we spend about $7,400 per student as compared to another state like Massachusetts, New York spend $19,000 plus per student. They might have, you know, buckets of money they can reach into if Title II dollars are taken away. We don't have that. So it gave us an opportunity to express our unique concerns in Florida. We also talked quite a bit with them about relief needed in the wake of Irma. We also met with the Department of Education staff, and much of our conversation focused around relief in the wake of Irma. They were a little bit more focused. They wanted to know what unique needs we had that they weren't already thinking about. And some of the things we told them about were the food that we use, the supplies that we use, cleaning supplies, something as simple as garbage bags. We went through tons of garbage bags, and that can get to be expensive when it's added up. The loss of revenue generation because games were canceled. To people outside of Florida, I don't think they understand the importance of football and how much revenue that generates and how hard that hits each school. So they were surprised to hear some of those things, and they seemed quite dedicated. And they also seem really optimistic that this administration will cut through the red tape and make sure that we get reimbursement sooner rather than later. There were a couple of board members from other counties who experienced significant losses as a result of Matthew last year, and they still haven't gotten federal reimbursement for that. So there was some concern about that, but also not reassurance. I won't use reassurance, that's kind of a strong word, but they're working really hard to make sure that that doesn't happen in the wake of Irma. We get money when we need to. Our student counts are due this week. This is something else we talked about with the DOE. Student counts are due here in the state of Florida. There's been some indication from Florida that they're not going to be very flexible with that. The Fed, on the other hand, is willing to do special appropriations to ease the financial burden of any influx of students we might experience as a result of Maria. And there is precedent for that. I guess that was done in the wake of Katrina as well. So they are aware of that. They're working to make sure that they can ease our burden. What else? We talked about Title I and Title II funding as well. And finally, the Secretary, Betsy DeVos, was present during some of the meeting. She was particularly concerned about schools and how we're doing in the wake of the hurricane. We met with staff from Senator Nelson and Senator Rubio's office. Senator Nelson's staff gave us about 10 minutes in the hallway and did not take notes. And to say I was disappointed with that is an understatement. Senator Rubio's staff, on the other hand, was very engaged and has already been in contact with me and others to follow up on issues that we talked about. Senator Rubio's staff is the reason why I missed my flight home, because when they give you 15 minutes, but you're into an hour of a meeting, you don't get up and leave, you stay because you take whatever they will give you, and they gave us quite a bit of time. So, so they're the reason why I missed my flight.
Just like Fritos potato chips, there's more planes, right?
Yes, exactly. There's more unfortunately, they were the next day, but I got home. And I learned a lot. I learned a ton about helping us to advocate better, not just at the federal level, but at the state level too. I took a lot of lessons, and hopefully we'll be able to apply those in our local advocacy endeavors here. And my final topic is Irma, to dovetail a little bit on what you were just saying. I'm not going to focus on the situation that our staff was forced to manage. Instead, I'm going to focus on the amazing work that I think that our staff did. Sheltering evacuees was really an opportunity, I think, for the district to show what we're made of. I'm going to talk about some individual people here today, only because that was my experience, but my comments, I think, can be applied across the district to all employees who had anything to do with anything associated with the storm. Our district decreased the impact of that storm on tens of thousands of people. They did it because it's who they are. It's the essence of who they are as human beings. 25,000 people stayed in our shelters. Ed Matthews at South Fort Myers High School is a superhero, plain and simple. He is. I'm going to compare him to Batman for today's discussion. The definition of a hero is a person who, in the opinion of others, has special achievements, abilities, or personal qualities and is regarded as a role model or ideal. Now, Ed, of all people, Mr. High Energy, Mr. Speak Loudly and Be Passionate everywhere he goes, made PA announcements throughout the time in the shelter. And his PA announcements were calm and they were reassuring. And he told people that they were in the safest place that they could possibly be. And he asked the people in the shelter to look out for one another. And it was his presence and his leadership that created a community inside that shelter that made it run so smoothly. And so If Ed is Batman, Domingo, the IT guy at South Fort Myers High School, is Robin, right? Didn't Batman have a little sidekick, Robin? Mingo is his nickname. He's the IT guy over there. There was never a time that I saw Mingo that he was sitting still. He was constantly doing something productive, and he did it with joy and humor. Like, how do you laugh when you're washing a bathroom? Well, he did, and he found a way to make the people around him laugh while they were doing it too. Dory, the food service manager over there, is another of Ed's Robins, so to speak. She coordinated the feeding of nearly 4,000 people every single day, multiple times a day, and she did it seamlessly. It was as if she was trained to do this, and this was her purpose in life. I cannot possibly identify every single one of Ed's Robins, so to speak, but I can say that there were about 20 people at South Fort Myers High School who contributed to the care of 4,000 people in one shelter. Every single one of them acted selflessly. They left their families. They left their families behind in a very difficult time to help their community. Every single one of them personifies what it means to be a true public servant. Every single one of them did what was needed. No task was above them. No task was below them. Ed described it best when he said it was really an all-hands-on-deck situation. Every single one of them operated on very little sleep. Like, they stole 2 hours here and they stole an hour there, but not one of them complained the entire time. They were really, really amazing. And this is the essence of who these people are. I know I keep coming back to that, but it's easy for us to ignore who works at this district when we're worried about SRF violations, and we're worried about accountability deadlines, and we're worried about all of the things that statute puts on us, budget restraints. You know, we talk a lot about those things, as we should, but I think it's really important for this community to realize that these are the people who are taking care of our kids every day in our schools. These people with these hearts that just don't stop are the people who are supporting our kids and caring for our kids and helping them reach their potential. And you can't fake the kind of service that I saw in these people. The bottom line is really they're the best kind of people that I know. And across the board, everybody in this district has my sincere gratitude. And they're all heroes. And they inspire me to be better. They really do. When I see what they did, I'm really impressed. I'm really, really, really blessed and lucky to be associated with them. And they lift us all up and make us strive to be better. So thank you, thank you, thank you to everybody who did anything associated with that. That's my report for today.
And I'd like to thank you as well for taking on the role with our legislators and our congressmen, and that is a big task. It's a big task to be able to get your way into their office and then to know what you're talking about and be credible when you're in there and to hold their attention. And that's very admirable. You have worked so hard to bring yourself up to speed with everything and given of your time. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you, I appreciate that. It's crazy fun, but thank you for the opportunity.
Mr. Teuber.
You want to go back and catch Melisa?
We'll do that at the end.
Thank you. I want to, again, echo what Dr. Kuckel said as far as the work that Chris did up in Washington. I want to pose to the board, after I pose it to Mr. Martin first, the fact that the response is so overwhelming as far as that the federal government didn't really know what the state is doing. Is there an applicability of preemption that they could actually change the way the Title I money is granted to the state so that the state, once they assert their jurisdiction, the state couldn't restrict our funding?
Now, those are federal dollars. The federal government has control over how they're used, so certainly there could be legislation to address that.
So, and since we have never thought, one, a reason or a point, because the mass of the largeness of the federal government, but this is a very focused, singular thing that we could actually get a bill, and I think get a bill, sponsored by both our House rep and our Congress and our senator, to actually go through to actually take away. That's one less, it's one less fight we have to fight at the state and local level. Just take it away from them. If they hone that funding bill at the federal level and just add the proviso that it goes to the counties for disbursement, then they preempt anything the state doesn't matter because the federal government has exercised its jurisdiction. And I think that's a very poignant part, and not have to fight the onslaught of what's going on up in Tallahassee.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz has already introduced such a bill. That was not a name that I could really bring up in some of my meetings because I don't think Marco Rubio or Francis Rooney would have responded very well to the person who introduced the bill, and I don't blame them for that. My point is the bill has already been introduced and it does have some traction. But I was thinking in the same terms.
So there's nothing that we need to do to move that?
I will follow up and find out what we need to do in order to move that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Ms. La Riviere?
Yeah, it is a great trip to do, isn't it, Chris?
It was great.
Now, good collaboration with the other FSBA members that went.
Excellent.
And the other question I have is, were there any other senators and representatives you met with that you felt were very positive towards our needs?
Everybody that I met seemed positive toward our needs, and the list I gave you was the complete list of people that we met with.
Okay. I was wondering, because I didn't
We
know
had
if you met with
briefings.
Yoho and,
Yeah, no, we had briefings
Okay.
with FSBA, but we actually had a briefing from NSBA that was not Florida specific. So that part of it was a little bit disappointing to me
Yeah,
because
that
they
should've
raised issues that just don't,
yeah,
they're
it
just
should have
not
been.
applicable to Florida.
Because when we were there, I guess it would be 2 years ago now when I went with a team from FSBA, we were looking at the changes at ESSA. And we talked with people from DOE to the different senators and representatives that we met with, and we said, this is not going to fly because the way it is worded, you're saying you want local control, but in the state of Florida, they believe local control is the state of Florida controls it. And we highly encouraged them to change the wording in ESSA. It didn't happen. Again, in January, when we met with them, we said, we're going to be having problems with this. Well, now we can say, well, we told you, you need to listen to us for those things. So I just really appreciate the fact that Representative Rudy and Marco Rubio's staff is wonderful, and I'm very disappointed that Senator Nelson's staff was not more accommodating because usually they are.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up ESSA because that was something else that we talked about. Florida had just submitted their plan a week before we got there, and nobody had really had a chance to dig into it. And while we didn't ask, state of Florida didn't specifically ask for a waiver, meaning we requested a waiver of fill in the blank, they sort of embedded waivers in their plan, and there is, the initial reaction is that there will be a lot of pushback against the Florida plan, and in what I considered to be a very astute observation, the FSBA expressed concern about making sure that that pushback is public, so that we as boards and the FSBA can be involved in any negotiations that take place with regard to that plan. Thank you for bringing that up. I didn't have that in my notes.
That's a very key piece, and the Hearts are saying, oh, we're wanting to give back more local authority. But it's all on, you have to be very specific, not just a general piece. And along that same lines, FSBA is in the process of developing their platform for the coming year. The meeting to make that determination on the platform will be on October the 26th. I am already up there the day before for an executive team meeting along with chairpersons and vice chairs. So I am going to be there because I am the vice chair for advocacy. I would automatically be there. So rather than Chris having to drive up, she and I chatted and felt like we can only have one vote anyway. So if we can get a collaborative piece together with a mindset, then she would rather not make that drive to Gainesville because it's not as close as it used to be when we'd go up to Pinellas County.
Right.
So,
Yeah, we've already submitted our platform as a board to the FSBA. We've already submitted our, and
yeah,
it
and,
doesn't make sense to me to have two board members there, if that's okay with everybody.
The committee, the executive committee from FSBA, the chairs and vice chairs of legislative, federal, and advocacy went through over 123 submissions to be on the FSBA platform. And as we went through all of that, we determined, first of all, is it state-specific, not just local? And then we determined, is it something we want to be on our platform? Or is it something we want to make sure that our staff is watching up there at FSBA, and they target those things when they come up in committees? So we went through and did a working through of that so we could kind of combine, all right, well, these three go together because they're talking about the same thing. There are bits and pieces of wording in one that are great, one in the other. So what can we do to do some combining? So that part will be taking place on the 26th. As we go through it, again, we want to have 3, no more than 4 main pieces on the platform. So and I apologize, Chris, I thought that Ruth had already sent us the final copy of what we had worked on to bring forward on the 26th. I am going to be requesting that she get that to me. I believe that all of the board members, all the boards need to have that so that they can give input for what are they as a board believe are the key pieces. So my thoughts were and I shared this with Chris, is kind of think about what we do when we get to FSBA, is that you see all of those components that are listed. And if you have a way to come up with an idea of a way to tweak and reword some things, go for it. Try to work on that with us. And then if there are key ones that you believe that in your heart of hearts this is necessary, we will come up with a number, choose your 5, choose your 6, whatever. Because when I get up there and after we go through all of the pieces, I get given 3 stickers, and I get to choose which 3 items I'm going to put the stickers on. So I want to know your thoughts, and I want it to be representing about not what I feel that day, but what is representative for all of us as a board. So does that sound?
Can you send it to us electronically?
That's the plan. That's my plan. If once Ruth and I make that connection and she can get that to me, it's going to go to, and I'm going to recommend that she send it to all of the school boards because I believe every school board needs to consider all of the members in the process.
And you want us to rank order the top 3 or 5 or what?
Probably pick your 5 ones, the 5 that are your top components. You know, not necessarily rank order, but just say, okay, these are the 5 non-negotiables that I want, really firmly believe need to be on the platform. So Chris and I, if it won't, I don't believe it would violate sunshine, we'll maybe look and organize it. If there's a way we can organize it so it's an easier piece for you to work with, we can, we maybe could do that. But we've got until, I leave on the 24th. So you will have until October 23rd. So that should give you plenty of time to work on that. And I continue to be amazed at our schools and our staff members. Thank you. Oh, yes. Denise, you are back there. We all shine in different moments, and we all find each other's gifts at different times. And we have an amazing staff, an amazing cabinet that Dr. Atkins has pulled together, that every single person shined and showed what they can do. But a lot of the things that Denise spearheaded in the process of this really shows how she shines and where her areas of strength are. And pulling people together and collaborating, all of those things. So I want to thank you, and I want to especially thank you for organizing FEMA to come here for our employees last Tuesday. That's a powerful piece, and then when Denise last night shared as one of our teachers was going out and had her vouchers for a motel, but she was crying. And she said, wait a minute, you're not going to leave here in tears. What's wrong? She said, none of the hotels will take my vouchers. And so Denise took her back, got her together with one of the FEMA people, and they made sure they found her a hotel that would take the vouchers. And so I appreciate that fact that you were observant. I appreciate the fact that all of our staff members, all of our principals that served, all of our teachers just were observant and met the need at the time. So critical, and continue to meet. Yesterday in our DAC, executive DAC meeting, one of our parents who serves on the elementary group, we did not even know. She had gone through, she's at the corner of Sunkiss and Orange River. So when we were dealing with the flooding because of Harvey during that weekend, it really hit her. Her house was already flooded. It got flooded again, you know. And she cannot go someplace else to live because she has one working sink and they do have an air conditioner. But everything is, you know, it's, and her attitude, and she still showed up for executive DAC. You know, she still continues. And so that is just, I'm just so proud of so many of the people within Lee County who are showing character and strength. And I keep going back to all of that. It's never had a big impact on me. And my husband asked me if I'd work in a shelter again, and I said, you bet your bottom dollar. I wouldn't trade that time for anything. Okay, Kenny Dobson, so mark it down. I'm going to be there. We had calendar committee meeting, and it went, honestly, Dr. Atkins, we all worked hard, and we got it done that night. People are so amazing. They come in with their pre-ideas. Okay, let's see how this flows. And in 2 hours, we knocked out that calendar, including the how we were going to handle hurricane days. Good conversations about all of that. And we've come up with something that we believe everyone can live with. And so we, hopefully, when it comes to the board, you will like it and approve it because it works. What's going to be difficult is when we get to 2019 and 2020 year, when August the 10th is on a Saturday and not a Friday, and having to deal with our legislator telling us when to start. But that will be its own interesting component. So I just, I'm constantly in awe, and I just want to thank all of you for everything that you do every single day. And that's it.
Thank you. Ms. Morgan?
Oh, so last time I praised the staff for their work before and during the hurricane. And this time all I want to say is that I think of all of the institutions and organizations in Lee County, the only one that really sees and feels the human cost of what happened during this hurricane are the people in the school district, because they see the impact on children and they see the impact on families. And so, having got through everything, they're now trying their best to take care of and embrace everybody in the community. And I wish I could say that I see that coming from other organizations, and I just don't. I feel sometimes, after the storm, I feel like the only people in Lee County who represent the community or who are the community are the people in the school district. Because they do bring all of the families in. So again, I just want to say that, you know, thank you to staff. Thanks for being there. Thanks for helping, sharing. And I know everybody's just working so incredibly hard.
Yes.
Anyway.
Ms. Giovanelli?
Well, there's been so much said, I just echo all that. Yeah, it's just been amazing that I've seen, but like, the show must go on, and it is, and that's the thing. And I went to the award ceremony on Monday night at the Broadway Palm, and you would never know that something happened a week before that. So, you know, it's just amazing that we have the community that we do. I get something in my throat. So,
And I appreciate all of your comments. I am responsible for the newsletter for this month. So I've been working with Lauren Stillwell to, I gave her a draft and we're going back and forth. And I want to incorporate your thoughts and the things that you brought to the table here. So we will get that out and try to make you proud with that too. All right, we shall move to Mr. Martin. Do you have any comments?
Not this time, thank you.
Dr. Atkins?
No comments.
Anything for the good of the order?
We do have public comment. Dr. Cockle?
Oh, yeah, public comment, yeah, thank you. We will move to public comment right now. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to come forward and share some insights with us? All right. Anything else? Good of the order? Well, we have a workshop, yeah, Ms.
Yeah, I can't remember in the workshop whether we directed staff to create meeting times with each of the legislators open for any board member to sit in. And, you know, we started that conversation. I'm not sure we finished it in a way that made it clear to staff. My idea was that we create a meeting with each of the legislators and then fill in the board members based on availability. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Do we have a follow-up on that? We will follow up, right?
Yeah, I think that has worked very well for us with those legislators and other, you know, whether they be federal or state, to come in and have those conversations with us. It's easier on their time. We don't get a long time, but we do have some time where we can share our individual thoughts.
So who is following up on it?
Well, I can share with you right now where we are, and we're in the process of working to try to get time with Matt Caldwell. I think we have something set for Mr. Caldwell. We are continuing to work to try to get time with Senator Benaquisto, and that is proving to be difficult, just between, you know, all the hurricane and you know, my personal situation. I had to cancel one myself because of that, and then trying to get the follow-up to that has just been a struggle, but we're still working on getting that appointment. And those are appointments where we plan to talk about really our capital situation in the school district at length. We've got and some of our legislative priorities. Dr. Desamore's, Rob Bodick, Ms. Patrica, and myself plan to be in attendance to those meetings, and then we can continue from there. That's where we are at this point.
I think if,
Yeah, I think,
Excuse me. There you go.
okay.
Ms.
I think
Fisher
that the
and then Ms. Patrica.
conversation at the prior workshop went in that direction, and what Dr. Atkins is talking about is not inclusive of all other board members, but just with Mrs. Patrica as the liaison. So I don't think we ever got to that point, Mrs. Morgan, where we talked about that, but we did talk about legislative days, which, you know, gives us also a very limited opportunity to talk, and only one person really talks in addition to the superintendent. So, you know, I think we should continue to move forward in that direction so that there will be an opportunity for each one of the delegation members to be invited to meet with us, as, you know, as many of us as are available at one time. It's a better use of time, and so I would support that.
Ms. Patrica?
I think that's going to be hard. I think that in the past, when we've invited them to come to us, they haven't come, or it's been staff And staff is great, don't get me wrong. You have a good relationship with staff, you can get about whatever you want, but, well, that might be the exaggeration of the year, but you know what I mean. I think it's important for us to meet with our delegates in their offices. I think that each of us, if we could make the time, find the time to do it, I think that we're doing the Benequisto, and I thought Benequisto confirmed. Mary, did Benequisto confirm? Okay, I thought I saw in my email that she confirmed. We're doing that big thing with the two of them, and we're gonna have a bunch of staff there, because they're the two who can really run with it, and I think it's important. But I also think it's important for us to hear, for them to hear from each of us why this is important. And I think the more often we, as individual board members, are in their offices talking about this, the more it will be at the forefront of their minds, the more they'll understand how important this is to us. I don't know how things were done in the past, but I do know that we're taking a bit of a new approach to advocacy, and I think this is part of it. I think that this is about developing relationships, and they need to hear from each of us. They need to see that each of us is committed to this. Each of us understands what we're asking for. Each of us understands why we are asking for it. Each of us understand what metrics are going to be in place to measure the success of what they give us, and that we will be held accountable to those metrics. So I think the more often each of us individually gets in there, I think the better off we'll be. That's just my opinion.
Ms. LaRiviere, did you want to say something?
Yes, I was just thinking we have had in the past where it has worked well for someone to come in. I also know that this year is an election year, so they're going to be in session in January. Committee meetings are starting, and hurricane has caused delays as well. I wonder if it might behoove us, and it might be easier to set up individual meetings with them. And I don't mind working with secretaries personally to ask them to help me with scheduling appointments, to meet with them personally. I don't know. I'm wondering if since they're going into committees, I'm wondering if it's going to be difficult to try to get those meetings with them individually where they come in before January. But it's worth a shot.
Ms. Fisher?
Okay, so historically, we have, to my knowledge, we have individually made appointments and met with them at their office when they are not in session or in committee and when they are in town. And also take the opportunity, I think, at different community events when we see them to share our message. But I think one of the other things that we didn't actually complete when we talked about this at the last workshop was to make sure that we have, in addition to our legislative priority card, that we have that common message so that when we do meet with them individually, we're all delivering the same message. So I think we need to make sure that we have that in writing and that we have possession of it and can take it with us as we have the opportunities to meet with them, whether by appointment or casually in public.
And I think that's a very good point. We have to be focused, and we have to have an agenda of the topics that that we cover with every one of them, so we don't get off on our own individual agendas.
Exactly.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, actually, I wasn't advocating for having them come in and visit us. I was advocating for having us make certain that each of them had met with at least one of us
Right.
in this period between. And, I mean, some of us may have the opportunity to meet with more than one, but I just want to make certain that we've got them covered locally before we even talk about what's happening when we go up.
Right.
Okay.
And I thought we were waiting on that information from, I think it was Darcy, or supposed to, and so our deliverance is all the same. So I thought we were waiting on that piece.
Well,
It'd be refined and whatever.
but I think what I'm trying to say is that we need to have that information by a date certain.
Yes.
So that staff can start setting up appointments after that date certain. If we know what that date certain is, they can go ahead, because getting appointments with these people is really, really hard. And so we need to be,
Doing that now.
that's,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They're campaigning across the state. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
thank you.
Anything else?
I'll just say as a follow-up, what I'll do is I'll get with staff and make sure you have what you need in terms of, in your hand, so you can go out to make those meetings, and then we'll follow up with Susan and Mary to indicate that we have that information, and now we can go ahead and
Okay.
move forward on making those appointments.
Thank
Great,
you.
Thank you.
We have a workshop next. How much time do you need in between? 10 minutes? 15 minutes?
Yeah, let's make it 10 minutes.
10 minutes? All right, it is right now 2:49, so we'll reconvene at 3 o'clock in the back. Okay.